The story and the way you tell it are not the same thing. And I want to talk about the difference between form and content, because in rejecting the content of American movies, we also mistakenly reject the form. We fail to recognize the importance of structure and how difficult it is to achieve that structure. We kind of believe that the story or the idea is the most important thing, rather than the way in which you tell it. So we tell European stories, which is good, but we tell them badly, which of course is not so good. Don't try and make American movies, but in avoiding making American movies, don't ignore why their movies are successful, because there are lots of things you can do, you can steal from them, that will make your stories much more successful. It may be paradoxical, but actually one of the best explanations for why American movies are so successful is entirely European. And it comes back to my friend Aristotle. 2,500 years ago, he analyzed stage plays, which, as we know, are a very different form from cinema. But nevertheless, he came up with a formula for writing, and it's extremely politically incorrect to say there is a formula for writing. Everybody I know says there isn't. So because I'm very politically incorrect, I'm going to say there is. And can anyone tell me what it is? It's only 3 words, which makes it really easy to remember. Pity, fear, catharsis. That is the formula for 95% of all movies. That's the 3-act structure. It's how the human brain works. You have to give some information, you have to plant something before it can pay off. It's very simple. It's how we work as human beings. Pity, fear, catharsis is a very fundamental aspect of the way we work. Now, what's so interesting about Aristotle, and many of the books on script writing don't do this, is he's not talking about the characters, he's talking about the audience. Your focus should always be on how do I get a reaction out of the audience. You need to know what reaction you want to get. Unless you know what reaction you want to get, you're not going to write it well. You've actually got to know what you want the audience to think, to feel, in order to put the characters in a situation to bring about that reaction. Aristotle said, in order to create pity for pity in the audience for that character, make the character suffer an undeserved misfortune. Once the audience identifies with the character, so you have a woman, a young mother, pushing her baby in a park, in a pram, and a guy comes by and he snatches the baby and runs off. I guarantee you, everyone is going to feel really upset about the woman for the one. Okay? The moment that takes place, there's a sort of transference. The audience feels pity or sympathy. They identify with them. Once you have made your audience identify with a character, you begin to have some control over the audience. You can manipulate them. So you then put the character into an even more dangerous or worse situation. And it doesn't have to be a thriller, it doesn't have to be Jeopardy, it can be a love story too. When you put the character into a worse situation, the audience feels worse. So the audience moves from pity to fear. And when you relieve the character of the jeopardy, when the girl gets the boy or the boy gets whatever it is, the audience experiences catharsis. It's all about making a film accessible to a wider audience. It means you've got to understand what the audience needs and wants. And what the audience needs and wants is essentially an emotional experience. They can't have that emotional experience unless you get them to identify with the characters. You can tell any story you like in many different ways. It's a question of finding a way that's going to make it accessible to a wider audience, that's going to make it marketable to that wide audience, that's going to make it attractive to the best actors, because, as we know, audiences generally are obsessed with actors. So it's no good making a film that all the best actors in your country are going to reject. So therefore you have to take actors who are not so good and who are not so well known. If you really dig deep into the story and into the characters and into why they behave the way they do, you will find much more interesting ways of telling the story. Your job as filmmakers is to cause physiological and emotional reactions in the audience. It's not difficult to do it if you deliberately set out to do it. If you think, how do I get the audience to identify with the characters? How do I get the audience to then suffer? And how do I then get the audience to feel good? It's perfectly achievable, but it's unlikely you'll achieve it unless you do it deliberately. Whether you make them laugh, whether you make them cry, doesn't matter. It's all about making the audience have feelings, emotions that they don't control, but that you control.